Hi, and welcome to Lights of the Round Table. My name is Susana, and I'm happy to be back with all of you in this wonderful 2025. And I am here and honored to have Brooks Agnew. And if you've seen him before, he's been our guest before, but he is a master engineer in various facets of engineering. He's also a seven-time Amazon bestselling author, which actually he has a new book called Glance of Angels, and actually is quite relevant because it has to do with the deep state and what we're witnessing with Trump. So he just got it published today. So kudos and hello, Brooks. And by the way, you should listen to him. Also, he has a podcast on free radio. I think it's Sundays and Thursdays, is it? Or Wednesdays when you do it?
Mondays and Wednesdays. Yep.
All right. I still remember a little bit. And of course, he's a well-renowned international speaker. And it's a pleasure to have you over here, Brooks. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. My
And
pleasure. I always like to be on your program.
thank you. I appreciate you. And then, of course, Kirk Pendergrass. And I love Kirk. I think he's one of the most constitutionalist guys around in the US. He's also an expert on the due process of law. And he actually has a podcast called Kirk's Law Corner. And he dedicates his time to educate us, the public, on what is our rights and the limits of government and the Constitution and, of course, common law. So happy to see you back, Kirk. How you doing?
Thank you, Susanna. It's great to be here. It's been a while since we've done one together, so life's been pretty busy and things are starting to get pretty crazy out there, and all the kind of the stuff that I've been talking about since September of 2017. It's all coming to fruition. So
I
I
know. I
told you
think
so.
I know. I think a lot of us have been sort of in the sitting on the edge of our seats, waiting for this moment. And finally, a lot of the subject matters that we've been discussing over for years and years is coming to fruition. We are seeing a reduction of government. I think that this is much better than a soap opera that we're watching right now on live television with Trump and DOGE coming. I mean, talk about the world turns, right? As the world turns, if I recall that soap opera, this is much better than this, and it's affecting globally. So I just wanted
Mhm.
to go and perhaps discuss a little bit of what has happened in the last month, because my head spins. I don't know about yours, but mine is spinning because I don't know where to look at. And one of them is DOGE and the 300 EOs that President Trump has already executed. And I hear about codifying. Brooks, do you want to take the lead on this one?
Well, yes. I mean, if we go back just a little bit, we go back to the 2020 election. We were all kind of expecting Trump to get reelected. He had plenty of votes. It just didn't tally up right. So Trump ended up being in exile for 4 years. He did not stop. He didn't just go golf and play with the grandkids. He was putting together his team for this presidency because he knew he was going to win. He knew he had to win. And he put together a hell of a team and a hell of a plan. So the one thing he did not do is he did not let the deep state finance or know about what he was planning to do. He paid for it all himself. So everybody was online, everybody was trained, everybody was being paid, everybody was ready for the transition, and the deep state did not know what was coming. So I like the fact that they campaigned openly and transparently, and that as soon as hour one hit, that's exactly what he did. Is exactly what he said he was going to do for the last 4 years. And frankly, the deep state got caught flat-footed. They didn't realize that he had the popular vote and the electoral vote. He is the one office in our Constitution that is elected by all the people. Congress and the Senate, it's kind of local. It's kind of broken into districts, but not the president. The president is at large. And so when that many people come out and say, we want to shrink government, we want transparency, and above all, we want accountability for what's been done, that is exactly what they're getting.
Yeah, well, Kirk, this must be a wonderful thing to watch because talk about um, reduction of the government is coming to fruition. Transparency, and even the legal judges, those that were rogue, are
Oh, now
being
you open
cleaned
up
up.
a whole nother can
Um,
of worms there
I
because
I
we have
know,
branches.
it's true, but I think that Kirk, I mean, being a constitutionalist and rooting for common law and going back to our real republic, for the man, for the people, it must be sort of sweet to hear all these, it's singing the praises, I guess. Kirk, go ahead.
Yeah, let's just go back in time just about 8 years as of next month. March of 2017, Trump did an executive order to do a complete audit of the entire executive branch. That's what's happening now. And to build on what Brooks was just talking about, technically speaking, Trump is, we don't have a president. We have a commander in chief because the corporation is done. None of these elections have been legitimate for a very long time. The 2020 election, everything basically since 2020, the election there was all a setup, okay, to wake the people up, to allow this election fraud to happen, which also bought Trump 4 more years of time because right there, just before 2020, Trump said he had a very difficult decision to make, and that was whether to pull the plug then or to wait. And he said that, oh, well, this is much bigger than we thought. He's talking about the deep state and the amount of corruption and getting into the satanic rituals and the pedophilia, world human child trafficking, both men, women, and children, all over. So that actually just bought him 4 more years where he didn't have to be in the limelight acting as president, and he could accomplish the things he needed to on the world stage where the real deep state is hidden, right? When we talk about deep state, I know a lot of people, oh, well, what's the deep state? First of all, you have to understand what the word state means. It's a state of being. And so deep state is a deep state of corruption worldwide, which gets into the December 20th of 2017, the executive order 13818, blocking the property of those involved in serious human rights abuse and corruption worldwide. We are, in fact, at world war. This is a revolutionary war worldwide. So people need to comprehend that that's what's actually happening. And I've covered this before on my own shows and talked a little bit with you about this, about Article 4, Section 4, the powers of not the president, but the powers of commander in chief. Now, this is Texas v. White, as well as, what's the other one? Luther versus Borden. Okay, so under Article 4, Section 4, this is a political argument, not a judicial one, which ties right into what Attorney General Barr said there in 2019, that Trump and the executive branch is going to start exercising power. And this is in front of Congress. Start exercising powers that properly belong to the executive branch, and the judicial branch doesn't have a say in it, and Congress is just going to have to deal with it. So I was telling people then, I said, oh, it's coming. The executive order 13818, back to March of 2017, doing a complete audit of the entire executive branch. This is happening worldwide. And then what did Trump do? Right out of that executive order 13818, went to Saudi Arabia, took down Saudi Arabia, went over to England, London, Vatican, 650 military planes to retrieve the gold from Vatican, and who knows what else they got in Vatican. Okay, lots of old parchments and all sorts of history, crazy stuff, and we can way off into a deep rabbit hole if we want to go there, but probably not. But this is coming to fruition now. This is actually a soap opera. It's just being played out. And I keep telling people, a lot of this stuff has already happened. We're just seeing the show. So this is now the time to grab your popcorn. Okay. Some of the stuff on like a local level, on a federal local level, now we're starting to see these people getting fired. And like I like to say here is they're not actually getting fired. Some of them, yes. But for those that are just, for the most part, innocent American people who went to work, applied for the job, went to work, get a paycheck, just go into, there's no real fraud going on there other than that actual position. They're not corrupt themselves. So it's just their position is being eliminated because that's foreign to our form of government and repugnant to our law. Not supposed to exist. And this is the reality of what everybody needs to come to right now and fully comprehend and then understand what is a Republican form of government, what is supposed to be here, and what is not supposed to be here. We're supposed to have a very limited form of government, and the federal government is supposed to be extremely tiny, basically to regulate taxes for taxes at the ports, commerce, right? That's Article 1, Section 8, Clause 3. Foreign and interstate commerce at the ports. That's the military is supposed to do this, not an FBI, CIA, EPA, BLM, Bureau of Land Management. None of these three-letter agencies and all that stuff. That's that ever omnipresent government that's even in the Declaration of Independence, erecting a multitude of new offices, sending hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out our substance. This is a repeat of history, which is why I keep saying this is a revolutionary war, as Trump keeps saying we're going back to 1776.
I wanted to ask Brooks, because he's the expert in bureaucracy too. And, going back to DOGE, I don't know, do you remember when Obama I think it was 2008 when Obama created the USDS? And then what did Trump do? He rebranded and called it DOGE. And so anyways, you might want to go through that history because it's quite fascinating.
That was executive order, but then it was codified by Congress. And they never really got off the ground. Obama didn't do anything with it. Well, it's codified by Congress. All Trump really did is rebrand it and use that code, use that law, not just an executive order, to create DOGE and to put employees under it. Now, of course, what this did, it instantly shut off the money pump to the deep state. All these accounts, Social Security, all kinds of accounts that they were draining money from, calling it, I don't know, climate change, green energy, human crises, whatever. But it was all going to political ends and not the end user. And so what they did, Elon Musk's people come in and they do what's called a forensic sampling. This is where they turn on their algorithm, they run it for a little bit, and they do a forensic sampling. And they'll usually pick something like 30 checks.
Yes, but wait, you forgot one little thing. During Obama, it was called the U.S. Digital Service.
Yes.
And it was supposed to do actually modernize and do exactly what DOGE is doing. Well, actually, not quite. This time is the receipts that we're doing, but they were supposed to become a lot about efficiency. Yeah. But go ahead. I just wanted to clarify that for those who didn't know that.
Obama did not have the algorithms, and Elon Musk and his team do have the algorithms. So they do the forensic sampling, and what comes back is how they do a forensic sampling is they'll take something like 30 checks that are written. They want to know who did the check go to, who signed the check, who endorsed the check, and what did the money go to. And if those things line up, then it doesn't really, send off any alarms. Well, when they ran the audit on USAID, all of the checks turned out bad, all of them. So they ran another sampling, 30 more checks. All of those checks turned out bad. And that's when Elon Musk went to Trump and said, you know what, this is Friday. We probably need to close USAID down. I'm using it as one big word. And let's go through it over the weekend. And we need to keep them from getting email access. Because if they get email access, they're going to wipe everything out, all the records, all the conversations they've been having for the last 60 years. Who's getting the money? Why are we making this deal? Blah, all this stuff is in email. So they closed the building, blocked the emails, and did 100% audit. The algorithms crawled the entire books, all their books in 2 days. And 88%, only 12% of the money actually made it to the end user. 88% of it was stolen. And that's what started to make the whole thing crumble down. And who showed up outside to stop it? The Democrats.
Well, talking about the Democrats, wait a second. Yesterday, I've been watching the CPAC, and I think it's what is the representative from Arkansas, Comer, James Comer,
James
right?
Comer.
He said yesterday something about Act Blue. They're also going to come up with something, and Act Blue, for those who don't know, that's the Democrats' donations platform, I guess. So who knows what they're going to
Well, they
call it.
laundered $2.2 billion just from BLM.
It's that has to go back to the people. And I hear that's what they're going to do. Part of the DOGE, what they're
Well, the
discovering
interesting
is.
thing, and I don't want to take up all the time because I know we have experts on the program, but we have three branches of government. The judicial branch has always been a problem since the original convention and the Federalist Papers.
Right.
And they very specifically wrote the judicial branch without two things: no purse and no sword. They were just to interpret law based upon the Constitution, nothing else. And the judicial branch was actually there, its original purpose, to protect the people from government. That's why it was there. Because Congress, Senate, president could probably get corrupt, maybe. What they wanted to have was a way to protect the people from government. And what has happened is exactly the opposite. The judicial branch has become men in black robes with their little magic mallets, and they are oppressing people.
Yeah. So Kirk, talking about the judicial system. I mean, we got Pam Bondi now as AJ. How do you envision the judicial system change? I mean, what can you describe to the American people how it should really look like? Because people don't realize what the republic really is and what common law comes, how it is practiced, and you have that expertise.
Well, this paints a whole different picture, right? Because all political power is inherent in the people. We have the right to alter, reform, or abolish anything and anytime we deem it necessary. So they've hijacked our courts, even with the Judiciary Act of 1789. There are no courts, they're all administrative. Whoops. That's all part of that Roman civil law, the code. Okay. So our common law courts and proceedings through common law, and if we read the Article the 7th of the Bill of Rights, and it says, with the right to trial by a jury shall remain inviolate, right? And no fact tried by a jury should be otherwise re-examined in any courts of the United States, except for pursuant to the rules of the common law. The specific rules of the common law that that's speaking to is writs, like writ of habeas corpus, writs of quo warranto, writ of prohibition, writ of mandamus. There's your mandate. Comes from writ of mandamus. There's what they call writ of certiorari now is actually called a writ of review, which that is supposed to be for reviewing whether the legislative branch has exceeded its authority or the executive branch has exceeded its authority. But then, per the common law, we, the people, are supposed to do that. We're supposed to declare that unlawful and unconstitutional. What is the judicial branch for? That's for admiralty jurisdiction. It's right in Article 3, Section 2. What jurisdiction are actually enumerated there? Admiralty and maritime jurisdiction, not common law.
Right. So, and we're leaving that part. So how is it going to look then, Kirk? How is it going to look like then? I don't know. In the next 4 years, do you think that we'll be able to succeed and flip this whole? I mean, can you see United States totally changed, to common law practice in 4 years?
I'll tell you right now, it boils down to the American people. Whether the people reassemble government de jure after the Reconstruction Acts of 1871, providing these 19 essential governmental services until the people reassemble. Okay. Our form of government is, again, all political power, all of it, every last bit of it, not some of it, not most of it, but all of it is inherent in the people. So where are the people?
Right.
See how this is in our form of government, how it's supposed to be is we have the body of the people. First of all, that is in and of itself, one, the militia. Number two, it's the pool of the body politic, the actual state of being, free, independent, the laws of nature, living in a state of nature. That is where we call qualified electors are supposed to come from the pool of the people. If we don't have the pool of the people, who in the heck are we electing? And why are we called registered voters when we're supposed to be called electors? So again, a lot of this has to do with the proper diction, words, and legalese, which is what's been hijacked. Part of 1871, the Reconstruction. You've got 1873 with the Code of Civil Procedure Act by Congress. 1878, creating the American Bar Association. Okay, why do these judges all wear black robes?
Yeah.
That's symbolism for what? Catholicism.
Mm-hmm.
These are Roman civil courts. Why do they call them civil rights? We're supposed to have natural rights and political rights. The word civil comes from Roman civil law. And when you look at civil rights, they're not rights, they're privileges that are granted by the king. And you only have those privileges. See the 14th Amendment. Nowhere does it mention rights, it says privileges. Okay? So if it's a privilege, it can be granted and revoked at any time. So even from the first Constitution of 1789, we were back under the monarchy.
Right.
A lot of people don't realize that. Some people will say we lost the Revolutionary War. You can't really lose, in a sense, if you read the Law of Nations. The people is the sovereign body politic, and they have the right to determine their government. So what this was the monarchy coming in, using force and violence, and taking over. They couldn't handle being told to screw off. We don't want your form of government. We don't want a monarchy. Even clear back to 1215 with the Magna Carta, people actually read that and comprehend what that's about is a religious separation. And it's more than just religious separation. It's an ideology. The difference between Catholicism and Christianity as an ideology, as the foundation of a nation's form of government and its bodies of law, where Christianity believes in as an ideology, as all mankind is a creation of God endowed by a creator with certain unalienable rights. Among these is life, liberty, and what this Declaration of Independence says, pursuit of happiness, which actually means property. So we're all familiar with that in the Sixth Amendment, right? Or pardon me, Fifth Amendment, right to due process of law. Okay, life, liberty, and property cannot be deprived without the process that is due from the law of the land, which is the Fourth, Fifth, and Sixth. So this has all been changed and altered and hijacked by the bar and a bunch of esquires, title of nobility toting esquires.
Right on.
Again, we got good people that have been duped into this, and we get men and women that are gung-ho at a young age and come out and say, I'm tired of this corruption. I want to go to school and practice law and defend people's rights. And, there's a lot of good people that want to do those kinds of things. But what they find out once they get in there is, no. If you do that, we'll jerk your membership card, which is not a license to practice law. There's no such thing as a license to practice law. Doesn't exist. So that membership card is to the private membership association. It's actually called an association, right? The Bar Association, which is just a set of men, which is actually it's prohibited. No man or set of men are entitled to separate emoluments or privileges from the community. So that's in the Virginia Declaration of Rights, June 12, 1776. It's in our federal constitution in Article 1, Section 9, federal, no titles of nobility, no foreign emoluments. The same thing with Section 10 to the states. So It's already there in the supreme law of the land, but this is where we get into different bodies of fundamental law, where you have Roman civil law, the code, or you have feudal law, or you have common law. Pick one. There's three types of fundamental law. So this is also in the Declaration of Independence of subjecting us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution, unacknowledged by our law, and given his assent to their pretended acts of legislation. This is all Roman civil law, the code.
So are you suggesting then that we need to go back to the Articles of Confederation and maybe just the Northwest Treaty and not deal with Declaration of Independence?
Well, the Declaration of Independence before the Articles of Confederation.
Yeah. Right. Oh, gosh.
Most people aren't even aware that we had a confederation long before, in the mid 1600s.
Right.
Our so-called colonies, right? They started their own confederacy because they knew, see, people don't understand that the different types of forms of government. Under a republic, you have a democracy, you have an aristocracy, or you have a confederacy. Those are your three choices of forms of a republican form of government.
So is that, wait a second, Kirk, is that why, one of the things that I hear a lot coming from Elon, coming from Trump nowadays, they're always using the word democracy. And it always baffled me. It's like, well, aren't we a republic? Where does democracy come into a republic? Because I've taken a few notes from you, and that's not where you want to go. I mean, we don't want to go. It's the closest thing to socialism sometimes, So where are we in this? I guess to clarify a little bit for people like myself who are a little lost of why they're utilizing the word democracy.
Well, I think people are getting confused with democracy versus democratic. Democratically, like when we put things to a vote, we do it democratically. That does not mean we're a democracy. Okay, so going back to Montesquieu's in his Spirit of Law, this is where he lays out these three forms of government under a republic. It's still a republic, like Republic of China. Well, what kind of republic? That's more of a democracy, but actually it's more like an aristocracy. We want the confederacy. We want that league of friendship, the union. So where we all have the power and the people have all the power and everybody else are public servants. Under democracy or even an aristocracy, they're called rulers, especially in a monarchy. We, again, our government's been hijacked, even clear back to 1787, 1789.
Sure. Brooks, do you want to put your thoughts?
It comes, people understand government and the way it operates in terms of rule. So when we think about governments and how they rule, we know what a monarchy is. That's a rule by one guy. We know what an aristocracy is. That's a rule by a small group of elite, right? We know what anarchy is, ruled by nobody, just every man for himself, right? We know what democracy is. That's a rule by the people. That's the way it is in the states, not in the federal government, but each state is a democracy. It's majority rule. And then we have the majority of the majorities. That's the representative republic. But what's a bureaucracy? A bureaucracy is a rule by bureaus. A rule by bureaus. And this is what DOGE is trying to point out, that we are not a republic. We're not a democracy. We're a bureaucracy, and we're being ruled by bureaus, unelected bureaucrats who have a job for life. They were not elected, and we, the people, have no representation in that government. And that is tyranny.
True. And is this why we're hearing now that they need to codify these 300 executive orders? Because that's the way to start tracking and not reverting back then in the future. Is that what they mean by codifying? Can somebody explain?
It won't change anything except for when the next president comes in, because the next president can just undo all those executive orders. But once Congress speaks on it, then the president can't change it.
Interesting. So what about the Fort Knox deal? all this drama that we're going to see Fort Knox. Is there any gold? If we're going to, it's the people's gold, it's the money, it's ours. So this mystery, I mean, you guys have to love all of this. I mean, if it's not Fort Knox, it's something else. I
Well,
mean,
you have two
really.
camps. You have one that says, no, 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 no. You can't look in that room. It's like Schrodinger's cat. The gold's there and it's not there, right? Well, we the people would like to know if it's there or not. Well, what's the downside? If it's not there, we the people are going to be very mad. Who
Yeah.
took our gold? And that could cause a lot of chaos. So maybe DOGE wants chaos. Maybe Trump wants chaos. And then he comes in with a rule of order and says, okay, well, all the gold's gone. So we're going to have to find something else to base our money on. And then what happens?
Well, I think that we're doing, one thing that I've noticed even before the inauguration, they were already pushing for clarity, and also tracking down monies. They were really starting to go after these illicit operations, and they've done it. I mean, what they've done, DOGE has gone and go through the ledgers and go through the accounting, and they're just recuperating a lot of money. So I'm not sure. Sorry, I don't know if you hear a noise. I got a buzz. But
Well, now the
anyways,
real question is, what are they going to do? Like they're talking about $5,000 checks to everybody. I already wrote them. I said, I don't want a damn dime. You take all the money and take it off the federal debt. That money should never have been borrowed in the first place. Put it back.
true, but isn't it because a lot of the I have a feeling that part of it might be because there are a lot of people that are going they're pushing out all these government employees. There's also being a lot of in the finance business, they've been closing up shop in a lot of these satellite banks. There has been a reduction of workforce, and I think this is just to alleviate perhaps a little bit more and give it back a little bit, the purchasing power back to the people, because once you have a little bit more of that purchasing power, you get more to unite. And I think perhaps that might be it. It's a little early, but that's what
Well, it
my
really
sense.
depends on what you call workforce. Yeah, they were getting a check and maybe they were spending it down at the grocery or the gas station or the movie theater, but they weren't actually working. They weren't actually producing anything, nothing of value. And that is pure inflation, pure inflation.
Well, we'll see what they do. I mean, that's still on the table. Nothing, they haven't decided anything yet. But I know that since COVID, or at least since 2020, a lot of those families are on a day-to-day basis and not finding jobs because of the age, unfortunately. And hopefully with immigration, um, with kicking out the illegals and ramping up innovation and flooding all these companies to come over here to United States and produce, perhaps we'll finally get the to see the light at the end of the
There's
tunnel
a
for
lot of
people.
help wanted signs in Charlotte, a lot. And I'm sure Charlotte's not alone.
Yeah. How are you guys doing anyways with North Carolina with the hurricane and everything else? How are
Yeah, I
you
think
faring out?
Trump got us in pretty good shape on the hurricane. He came in and put some money in place, put the Army Corps of Engineers in. They took some specialized equipment and moved all the debris out of the river. The roads, the small roads are almost all rebuilt in the bridges, not the freeways yet, but the small roads. And that's going to be great for this summer. This summer is going to be a complete recovery. No thanks to our crooked Democrat governor or FEMA.
Yeah, which FEMA. Now what's happening with FEMA? Is that going to be repurposed?
Well, we'll see. We'll see what Christie does and what Trump does, but I have a feeling they're gonna take a haircut.
Yeah, I see a reduction of government by 80% coming up in the next 24 months to be something really a rampant thing to do. I mean, just with DOGE alone, I think they're doing a fantastic job. And I think that just by public consensus, we're going to get a lot more public to support all of this. They're already publicly supporting it. So, Kirk, go ahead.
You recall we talked about, I believe it was the last one we did together. We were talking about the Chevron doctrine and how that was going through that Supreme Court. Okay.
Right. We haven't even
Uh,
seen that start yet.
Right. Remember when I said, well, they were right there. Why didn't they just challenge the Administrative Procedures Act of 1946. I'm like, they're right there. Well, this is the bar members. This is what's going on. So I've reasoned with it and said, okay, well, they're slowly taking stuff down the same way it was kind of built. So not to cause a big alarm, but that's what's happening right now. It is happening. Okay. This is the administrative state. What Brooks was talking about is a bureaucracy. Well, there again, how does a monarchy work? It uses corporations, corporate charters. This is how a monarchy works. This is also how Roman civil law, the code, works. So all of this unelected bureaucrats, this omnipresent executive branch, again, back to the Declaration of Independence, erecting a multitude of new offices, sending hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out our substance. Eat out our substance is taxpayer dollars, right? And anything we might own, and they're stealing from us. And okay, this waste, fraud, and abuse, that's what's going on. This is a full forensic audit of the entire executive branch on a financial level to find all of the waste, to find all of the fraud, and then those involved in serious human rights abuse and corruption. So that executive order is being implemented even right now as we speak. And this is the administrative state being taken down that was created in 1946, which was created by the bar, by the way. Actually have the documentation from the bar itself presenting this to Congress in 1945 when they proposed this Administrative Procedures Act. This is what creates all these executive agencies. And see, Attorney General Barr, at that same time that I was referencing before, he mentioned that, hey, you know, he called them interagencies. They're created by the legislative branch, and they go over to the executive branch, and then they start exercising powers that properly belong to the legislative branch. Gee, doesn't that sound like a monarchy in a two-branch form of government, which is what our founders specifically wanted to get away from and separate the legislative from the executive powers, and became three branches of government versus the legislative, executive joined as one branch, and the judicial, which was just the king's bench anyways. So
let me share something that you might find it amusing. Hopefully it's on DOGE, and it has to do, let's see if you see this, if you're able to see this. Can you see the Department of Government Efficiency, the people voted? Can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay, so there are laws and rules, and this is the number of agency rules created by unelected bureaucrats, and it tells you by the year, right? And so look at the rules, and I think if you go like 2020, let's say 2020, this one, I don't know if I can, but Code of Federal Regulations, and here we go by Department of Treasury. I mean, it tells you the sections of regulations are 16,000 and 7. It tells you the amount of words, 14.552 million. I mean, it's unbelievable the amount. I mean, even the Department of Agriculture, 21 sections of regulation. I mean, I don't, how many, I mean, I can see by 2028, how many of these will disappear? A lot, right? I mean, these are sort by regulations, sort by agency. I just found this quite interesting. And by words, I thought this was up your bellywick, Kurt. So
that's what they call it. They call it rule making. You know, when I've cornered some people down at the Idaho Capitol, I'm like, what do you mean rule? Rule of what? Well, it's just a rule. A rule of what? A rule of procedure, rule of mathematics, rule of the game chess, rule of game of Monopoly. Rule of what? Rule of law? No. Because rules of law, when we're talking about rules of principle. So if you're going to say it's a rule of law, that's maxims of law. So this is what they call rulemaking. What we do here in Idaho, and I've called them out on. I've told my legislators, I'm like, this is all a scam. This is all a fraud. Why are you listening to them, telling you what their rulemaking is, and then we've got one legislator who's been stuck with it, reviewing this big stack of all these new proposed rules, because we have the the Sunset Act. Okay. So every year, all of the entire executive agencies have to rewrite their rules and propose it to the legislature. Then this poor woman has to go through all of that documentation. Like I said, a big, huge, likely look at the numbers of paperwork you're looking right there just from one agency. So the legislature has to go and review all of their rulemaking and then either approve it or reject it and work on it, blah, 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 blah. So that's the administrative state. That's under the Administrative Procedures Act. That's the deep state. In essence, all of these unelected bureaucrats, these corporations, these non-governmental organizations is what they call them, but yet they're created by the legislature. Then they go over and claim they're under the executive branch. Just say, well, executive, that's to execute the laws of its creation. This is why we're supposed to have real statutes, not code. Okay. There's no such thing as a codification, because if you're going to talk about codification, then we're going to talk about where's the cipher to decipher the code, like Morse code. Okay. You got to have a cipher. But again, anytime you mention code, that's Roman civil law. We're supposed to have statutes. The legislature is supposed to make policy. It's not law. It's policy to regulate what they create, corporations. And again, it's supposed to be of the people, by the people, for the people. So these are all supposed to be independent contracts, a private bill, or unless it involves public funds, and it's a public bill, say for John Doe Paving Company to pave the roads. This is supposed to be of the people, by the people, and then for the people. So yes, they're supposed to actually do bonds, and the people are supposed to buy into them bonds until they get enough money to pay John Doe Paving to pave the roads. That's how that's supposed to work. There's not supposed to be any direct taxes. There's not supposed to be this revenue generation. Oh, we got, like in Idaho, we're, $500 million in excess. We'll just leave that in that pot kitty over there, and whenever we need it. No. Give the money back to the people that you've stolen from the people.
Right. And I think that one of the exciting things is perhaps the introduction of AI into the government coming soon. I think that is going to streamline everything, the processes. Like you said, how do we get, all these codes, all these US codes are not going to be there. With a push of a button, I can just see all that sweeping out and happening. Alleviating a lot of the work, the manhandling work of the paper pushing and all that stuff. I mean, one of the things that I love about this administration that I've been anticipating and waiting for is the actual introduction of an efficiency using the tools, the innovative tools that we have on hand and in hand, and actually use it to make everything just fast. I mean, there's no need, for example, I don't know, wait for days and weeks and months for a court or for some sort of judgment to come, for anybody to go to court, whatever. It just should be done instantaneously. It's just like in insurance. There's no need for insurance either to be long and the procedures to take that long, because they're taking your money anyways and making interest perhaps on that money. It could happen just in a matter of minutes. So I'm looking forward to that kind of innovation kicking in and making people's lives a lot easier. I mean, come on, we're supposed to live, be productive and abundant, and we're supposed to be happy. The pursuit of happiness can actually happen. I think coming up in the next 4 years, I really see the frameworks actually. They're bringing down the bureaucracy, and I think that underneath there's a layer where we'll be able to have a much better form of governance, and with God's nature, natural law in charge. So, anyways, Brooks, what do you think? Because you are the engineer expert among us. What do you think about my ideas?
Well, I know there's a big fear out there of AI, taking over the world, becoming sentient someday, and deciding, as the movies tell us, that human beings are the thing that's in the way, and we need to get rid of them. I don't think that's going to happen. I play enough with AI and use it in my business I could tell you that men with AI probably will take over the world, but not AI by itself, because men or women supply the desire. What do I want to do? What do I want to accomplish? What is the future state I want it to look like? But really, what we're beginning to see in humanity is a lot of chaos, and it shouldn't really be feared because this is what humanity has to go through in order to ascend. It's not a smooth, enlightening transition. People go through a change in paradigm because their precious third dimension is falling apart. Uh, Once this ascension happens, which I don't know if it's going to happen anytime soon, but we're on our way. This golden age is beginning. Uh, I think even my carpenter friends, use a little bit of artificial intelligence in their personal lives for various things, websites, and I don't know, just different writing papers and things like that. And it's going to get better. But right now, society is in chaos. And my gosh, all you have to do is turn social media on. You could see it. It's in everybody's faces, in their words. And you have to kind of slap yourself. We do, because we say, wow, what is happening to your brain right now? But this is the crash that they're having. Their little physical world is beginning to phase into this five-dimensional world, which is really disorienting them. Because in five dimensions, you can see all sides at one time, which is not what we normally do in the third dimension. In the third dimension, we take one thing at a time. We cross that bridge when we get to it, not in 5D. In 5D, you've crossed it 6 times before you get there. So this is the change society's going through. And I think we're going to make it. This is a good, healthy sign. I think we're going to make it. I'm very optimistic about AI and the human race.
Me too. Make that two, and probably even Kirk 3, right?
To a certain extent. Um, I've had kind of a going joke with some of my followers and supporters many years ago. Was talking about I should create an app, for law stuff. And I'm thinking, well, okay, if we're going to use AI, first of all, AI or any kind of programming is only as good as the programmer and the knowledge of the programmer. So who's going to do the programming on this? You're going to have to know the law.
Yeah, because there is a bias.
Seriously know the root of all law, the laws of nature. So I could easily propose questions and make it super simple following due process of law. Okay, what's the name of the man or woman who's the injured party? What was the conduct that caused the injury? What are the actual damages? Do you punch that information in and it'll spit it out? Okay, here you go. You're done. It's really just that simple. And see, this would get rid of the corruption of these prosecutions by information because there's no injured party. Well, if you can't put a name in there of the injured party to start with, AI is going to tell you to screw off. It won't work.
Well, that's true, but already in China, they already have an app in China for insurance, car insurance. If you have an accident, you just get the app, and it's all settled. I mean, you don't need even the police to intervene at all. It's all done in a matter, and hiring even is happening already, and has been happening for some time already. Through AI. So, I think it goes even deeper than that. There's also machine learning, but anyways, it's probably a little too deep for this type of discussion. But I really think that our government system is going to be fleshed out to the point that it's going to be super simple as meant to be, in many ways. So we'll see. Brooks?
Well, yes, we will see. What I don't want to have happen is for the people to kind of lose steam. I don't want the men in the black robes to stop the machine of the republic from working, from suing so many times that it just gums up the wheels. I think by and large, the executive branch, Trump and his team, knew that the men in black robes were going to come forward with their mallets swinging in every different direction. They knew this was going to happen, and they kind of I think, are planning for it, because what they want to do is take these ambiguities that are in the Constitution and take them to the Supreme Court and make the Supreme Court make a ruling on these. And once they do, of course, then the ambiguity for a while goes away. But I would say, by and large, of decision makers in our government, judges are the worst. They have the worst history in our country. Women can't vote, blacks are not free. I mean, come on, judges have always been wrong. They rarely ever make the right decision. So I just don't have much faith in it. I don't have much faith in the judiciary. Something basic has to happen and there's two ways of fixing it. One is the Convention of States, where the states can come forward and say, look, this is messed up. We as states are going to propose this amendment to the Constitution and we're going to ratify it and it's going to become law. That could clear things up. And the other is what's called the Re-Inhabit the Republic, which is a movement that is going on the side of the United States right now to return to the pre-1871 government. I can tell you, when we first started this movement, it was sparse. Now we have assemblies in all 50 states. We have governors. We have justices. We have all of the officers that we're supposed to have in place. And we are now ready for a peaceful transition back to the 1870 form of government.
Right. And so what about AJ Pam Bondi? I mean, is she going to just try and put all these cases through the Supreme Court or to clean up the mess, or what?
Well, first of all, you have a case. You can't just say, I want the Supreme Court to make this decision.
No,
Kirk, back me up on this. First, you have to have a case. You have to have some judicial decision in a lower court, then a higher court, then an appellate court, then it goes to the Supreme Court. It is a slow, arduous, and freaking expensive process for we the people. And Kirk, help us out. I think there needs to be a better way.
Well, we read the common law and learn how common law practices the rules of the common law. First of all, we go back to the Magna Carta, chapter 61. There's supposed to be 25 men as a grand jury. Okay. The grand jury is supposed to do an investigation, their own independent investigation. That's outside of the legislative, executive, judicial branch, right? This is the power of the people. That's that right to peaceably assemble to consult for our common good. Okay. So there's two ways for the jury to be assembled. One, somebody files a complaint pursuant to the Fourth Amendment. And the judge says, okay, you've taken the stand, you've been sworn in, you're under oath, you've testified, that's been reduced to writing, and it's signed, sworn, and subscribed. Now I send that over to, if it makes the determination that it rises to the level of criminality, then okay, the judge is supposed to order an assembly of the grand jury. That's called a grand jury indictment. Now, under a presentment of a grand jury, that is where we, the people, have the right to peaceably assemble for ourselves upon our own information. See, this is where they tie in the bar. It says, well, we can do prosecutions by information. Yeah, you're absolutely right. The people can peaceably assemble to consult for our common good and do a presentment of a grand jury. That needs no authority from any other branch of government. This is the power of the people. So a lot of people think the right to peaceably assemble is about protesting and all that stuff. They don't even know what the word protest means. Protest is a formal written, an objection. It's a remonstrance. So what do you mean you're protesting? No, that you talk about picketing, because I know the difference between a petition and a remonstrance and to address. So if you're going to tell me that you're out there protesting, I'm going to say, well, where's your remonstrance? And did you file it with the legislative branch? Because that's where protests go. But anywho, we go back to the grand jury, and then it goes to the petite jury. Okay, well, the petite jury is supposed to have the power to judge both the law and the facts. See, we're supposed to be able to declare that unlawful and unconstitutional. Again, all political power is inherent in the people. We have the right to alter, reform, or abolish anything at any time we deem it necessary. And that is one way that we exercise that political power, through the petite juries. We got a question of law. They tell us, oh, well, that goes into the judicial branch. Well, yes and no. Who is the judicial branch? The people. That judge over there is supposed to be a referee calling balls and strikes. I like to compare this to a tennis court. You got two sides to the court. You got the prosecuting attorney and you got the defense lawyer, right? We all have the right to prosecute our own claims. Wisconsin Constitution, Article 1, Section 21. We all have the right to prosecute our own claims. What's with this county or city prosecutor? Who are they? That's foreign to our form of government. We're supposed to be prosecuting our own claims. Okay. Number two, then we go into the petite jury judging the law. Okay. That question is posed to the jury. And as I say, I'm the prosecuting attorney here, right? Because attorney is to attorney, to take from one man and give to another. So if I've got standing, right to a cause of action, I can attorn my fellow man. Attorney has nothing to do with the bar. That's the major misconception about attorney and lawyer. Lawyer is one who's knowledgeable in the law. One who speaks the law is a law sayer. That's where lawyer comes from. To speak the law. Yours to speak. So I'm supposed to, as a prosecuting attorney, supposed to do a constitutional challenge to the legislation made by the legislative branch, or any of the conduct done by the executive branch, or even conduct done by the judicial branch. That's supposed to be determined by the jury, not the judge. Again, he's supposed to be a referee. When you look at a tennis court, where does the referee sit? Outside of the court. And the only time the referee speaks is when there's an objection and it's either overruled or sustained.
Gotcha.
This is supposed to be my court, not the judge's court. But that's Roman civil law. That's an ideology of Catholicism versus Christianity, where we have all this power. So that's the difference.
Yeah, and it sounds to me like that's going to be one of the biggest challenges for this administration to overhaul or to actually come and simplify, because education is one of the things that unfortunately the American people are not educated on the right process of due law under common law. And that's why I always say that perhaps AI or perhaps forms some sort of, you have to make it simple for the people in order to be able to start comprehending and start applying it at the local levels. And it would be curious to find out how this all unveils or evolves in the next 4 years, because I think that if we only have one chance, and I think it's these 4 years. And if there's something that needs to be rectified, has to be the judicial system in our in our governance. I mean, this government. Forget about the easy peasy are getting deregulations. It's getting rid of some of those bureaucrat agencies. It's the money laundering. I think one of the hardest and toughest is going to be reverting back to common law and how to apply it.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And, when we see the left, we call them the left, I call them the global syndicate. When we see them losing ground, the first person they turn to is a judge. They go find a judge somewhere in Seattle, somewhere in Rhode Island, somewhere in Poughkeepsie or, Louisiana, some federal judge to say, oh, President Trump, you can't do that. What? Some federal judge in, the floor above traffic court gets to make a decision for all the people in the United States? It's utterly, completely ridiculous. Yep. That's what has to go before the Supreme Court and be fixed.
Yeah. Now, the other one last thing that I wanted to sort of clarify, since I have you both, at the inauguration, we noticed that Trump did not put the hand on the Bible. And that's because probably is it because of continuity of government and martial law, global martial law? Do you guys have any sort of, would you gentlemen have any sort of insights on why that happened?
Go ahead. I don't know. I,
Okay.
I
So
believe.
back to what I was talking about in the very beginning. Okay. Commander in chief. Everything since 2020 has all just been a show. Okay. Joseph R. Biden, as far as I understand, was executed in 2018 and buried in Arlington Cemetery. Never took an oath of office. None of the so-called Biden administration ever took an oath of office. It's all been a show, folks, to wake the people up. This is the what they call in the golden age. Now, what I'm calling it, this particular year is the year of enlightenment. People are going to actually physically see this stuff happening, including, like Trump said, executions. He's like, I don't know if the people are ready to see executions, but they're going to get to see it. So
Wow.
that's coming, right? Executions have already been happening. I put that out a long time ago. Why would the DOJ try to stop Donald Trump from doing any more executions after he'd already done 13 if he wasn't doing executions? Just like, how does Trump do a treaty of peace with all these foreign nations and countries if we're not at war? You can't do a treaty of peace if we're not at war.
Yeah, wait. I just want to clarify for everybody. I mean, you have already your Marine emblem out of you're an ex-Marine. Just want to clarify because you have your military background
Yes.
and your
Former
source of information
never.
is probably military. Go ahead.
Yeah. So we have to comprehend this last 4 years, again, like I said, was just to buy Trump time to take care of things on a world stage, which goes straight to the Jesuits, international banking cartel, pharmaceutical drug industry, the health, whatever. Trump already called that out. He said he was going to take down the drug dealers, and he said, I'm specifically referring to the pharmaceutical drug industry. Those are drugs, right? Medicine comes from nature. You cannot copyright or patent nature. Everything pharmaceutical is a drug. Those are all synthetic, man-made, because again, you can't patent or copyright nature. So all of this stuff has been happening behind the scenes while Trump has been the commander in chief. And if you actually watch the video there where Trump didn't put his hand on the Bible, why? Is because it wasn't there yet as soon as he started the so-called swearing in. This was all formalities. Now, what's happening on March 4th? Why is March 4th so important? Because that's the original inauguration date prior to 1871.
Oh, really?
Yes, it was always March 4th. So what a coincidence. As soon as they said, oh yeah, we're inviting Trump over here into Congress on March 4th. And I'm thinking, March 4th? What a coincidence of the date. So and
are
then
we going to
look
see
at what
him
happened,
putting
okay,
that?
with this inauguration. It didn't happen its normal kind of outside thing. We're going to do it inside because of weather. Okay,
Right.
it's all just a show, folks. Trump is still the commander in chief. Again, back to Texas v. White, which I didn't finish explaining. The commander in chief has the power to send up provisional government pending the outcome of the war. Trump has already said he's a wartime president before 2020. So Executive Order 13818 has been extended and extended and extended. Trump is still the wartime president. He's not a president, he's the commander in chief. Now, what do commanders or the military do? They give orders. That's what an executive order is. It is a military order under martial law.
Mm-hmm.
So everything that's happening right now is a provisional government. It goes back to the continuity of government from 2015, 2016. Let's bring up that executive order from 1984, amending the manual for courts martial and bringing back the death penalty, which is what they did in 1984. They got rid of the death penalty, especially for treason and that kind of stuff. They were pre-planning. This is Agenda 21. They were trying to protect themselves just in case they got caught. But what did Trump do? That all came effective January 1st of 2019. This is why the freak out worldwide since January 1st of 2019. Then look at what Pam Bondi did as the Attorney General there. She puts out her memorandum of law that says, hey, death penalty's back on the table and for treason and da-da-da-da. That already happened in 2019. See, all this stuff. It's already been done, but it's coming out in the light now, even though I covered it back then,
Yeah.
2018.
Oh, I remember, I think it was one of Obama's State of the Union address where he said that they had a shadow government.
Mhm.
The shadow government was not the bad people that were actually what I'd call the white hats. Probably he was already under orders then. I think this military operation has been going, or at least for a long, long time, in order to revert where we have. But it gets very deep,
1964.
boy. Long time, huh?
JFK.
But worth it, I think. I mean, what a time to be alive. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
and definitely, I mean, to have finally United States come and become the country of peace versus the country of war. I mean, the CIA is going down. So much going. I mean, all the bad stuff. It's about time. So it's going to be an exciting, definitely 2025. I wanted to, um, there's one thing I wanted to quote from Brooks when you were talking, Kirk, about the power of the word. He has a quote in his website that says, "The word is the key to the natural high. It emits pictures from those who cannot paint, music from those who cannot play. With it, the power of the mind is infinite." And that was you back in 1973.
True.
Brooks.
I was 2.
Powerful, powerful, powerful words. I love it. So,
That's awesome.
it is. I just want to let everybody know to go to Brooks Agnew's website. You can find him at Brooks Agnew blog, and his new book is is it the Glance of Angels? Glance of Angels. That just came out today. I'm going to order it soon. Also for Kirk, what a great guy. I mean, I don't know anybody. You go really deep into common law like nobody else I've ever heard. And the historical facts that you and your team also is just mind blowing. I mean, it's not even in the books, actually. I mean, the kids should study that too. Um, and you have your show, I think.
Yeah, if you just go to kirkslawcorner.com, in the on the homepage, upper left-hand corner, there has all the links to my social media, except for the Telegram one. Changed it to private, and I haven't been able to update
Uh,
that yet.
okay. Hey,
But
by
if
the
you
way,
watch the shows,
yeah, you'll
I'll
learn.
put in there the actual link to the private Telegram channel.
Yeah, I'll actually put it on my description for those who can see it. It's not always on the apps, I guess. It's only when you're on the computer you can see those links. So I'll add it. But one last thing. What did you think? I thought of you when Trump said, "Hey, we should bring Canada back and become the 51st state." I just laughed and thought of you because I think wasn't that the treaty? Or what's it called? The West, the treaty. What was that treaty
In the
back
Articles
in
of
the
Confederation.
territory? The Articles of Confederation. They had that window of opportunity where Canada was invited to join us, and they didn't.
Mhm.
Could that
Yeah,
still be done?
absolutely.
Can you imagine?
The people have, you read the Law of Nations, the people have the choice. All they have to do is come together and say, this is what we want.
Yeah.
No man or set of men can stop that, right? When the majority of the people, the majority of the community comes together and says, this is what we want. This is what we're going to do. That's that right to alter, reform, or abolish anything at any time we deem it necessary. This is international law from the Law of Nations.
Wow. So people, get yourselves together and let's bring Canada in. I mean, and we can even bring other nations too.
Mm-hmm.
Correct?
Oh, absolutely. And it's going to happen because we're at war. So
Yeah.
here's what is the reality is supposedly the winner of the war gets the spoils of the war. So what's the executive order? Those involved in serious human rights abuse and corruption worldwide. What that executive order is really about is taking down corrupt governmental regimes, instituting new government, holding elections, and then doing a treaty of peace in that order. That's what's been happening since 2017.
Mm-hmm.
It's already been happening worldwide.
Well, wonderful to have you all back. What a year. And I thank you very much for joining me. And for those who are new, thank you for joining us and welcome to Lights of the Round Table. Let's see if we have some more in-depth conversations like this in the future with these great two gentlemen. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.